What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? This is going to be your review for Tamar Get Your Life Season 1, Episode 3. This show is a storm. Is a S storm. I don't want to say the word. It's just this is a mess. This show is a mess. We start this episode off. They tell us that they haven't had a lot of communication with Tamar since the last conversation we saw, where she said they were trying to make her into be the angry black woman. They get to her house, and I guess they already have it prearranged that they can get into her garage or whatever. Nobody's home. They get a email from her lawyer asking them to leave the premises because she is under doctor's orders. She's under vocal rest and she can't work. She got a doctor's note. But why you had to get your lawyer to ask them to leave the premises? Why you couldn't just call them and say, I can't work today? I don't understand. So, 2 days later, Tamar's getting ready for a show. She's coming to DC to do a show, and we see her going over everything with her assistant, all the different, ins and outs, the who's, the hows, the what's, and the what's. And you know what I heard Tamar say for the first time? I have never in all my life, on the Braxtons, on Vince and Tamar, I have never heard her ask this question. She said, how much is this going to cost me? That's how you know that everything is coming out of Tamar's pocket these days. And it's a different conversation when you paying the bills. Okay? Okay. So, Tamar seems to be temperamental. I don't know. She seems to be on edge. I don't know. She got irritated because the dog had an accident inside the house. She called David. David said, listen, when the dog is with me, the dog don't have no problems. Why? Because I take him out every day and every evening. When the dog got to go, he got to go. Like, you got to take him out. Well, he ain't told no lie. So they get to DC. They land. Tamar's still under vocal rest, but she's still talking. She keeps saying she under vocal rest, but she keeps talking. She won't stop talking. Anyway, Goldie is with her, and she said that the dream work situation has been working. Goldie seems to be happy. Tamar seems to be happy. They go for sound check. Again, Tamar seems to be very frustrated. Sound check doesn't seem to be going too well. She's getting irritated that this ain't here, that's not there, this not loud enough, that's not low enough. Just all of that. And she talks about how she doesn't like coming back to DC these days because it's just not the same. She said ever since her niece died, you remember about a year or so ago, her brother Michael's daughter passed away pretty suddenly. And I want to say it was drugs, but y'all don't quote me on that because I really don't remember. But, she said, well, maybe I'll, go see him while I'm here. And she was just saying how just things just aren't the same because they just don't, And what I found interesting was she never mentioned her father. Like, you don't even see your daddy? Like, okay, you don't see Tracy, you don't see Michael. You don't even go see your daddy when you in town? And that's beyond the show because the daddy was barely even on the show. That's just your relationship with your father. Like, that's just that. But whatever. David gets in town. Now, David flies in town, and David has set up a secret meeting with Tracy's husband. Now, here's the thing about that. I think I understand his intentions, but that was a problem. There's nowhere in the world that my man is going to have a secret meeting with my brother-in-law who I don't rock with. Even in the best of times, I ain't rock with my brother-in-law. Right? Even when her and Tracy seem to be getting along, she never saw it for Tracy's husband. None of them really did. Remember all them rumors about him having affairs and all this other stuff? Like, she never saw it for him. So you gonna go and have a secret meeting with a man I don't rock with, knowing me and my sister are not speaking, and I don't know nothing about it? And basically, Kevin was like, listen. He goes back to the whole situation about how Tracy feels disrespected by her family and not supported. He goes back to the story about the and I see you, Kevin, my Mason brother. I see you, boo. He goes back to the story about how Tracy didn't get the sign. Basically, the family wanted her to choose between her son or her career. She chose her son, and and he said something left my wife that day that just hasn't been able to be resolved. Now, here's what I'm gonna say about that. I'm not going to get into a whole long situation about that, but I feel like that conversation has been had and had and had and had. I feel like they've apologized. I feel like they've gone to therapy. I feel like they've done all of the above. At a certain point, Tracy, you're going to have to just let it go. You can't, your sisters cannot rewrite history. They made the decision. You didn't like the decision. You didn't agree with the decision. And it may not have been the right decision, but in that moment, at that time, they did what they did, and you're gonna have to find a way to forgive them if y'all are gonna move forward. The other thing is, this ain't all about that, because even though Tracy is on the outside, she still has a better relationship with Tawanda and with the other one. Shoot, Tawanda, Tracy, Tamar, Tony. Why I can't remember the other one name? All them T's. You would think I done ran out of names. But you know who I'm talking about. The one that talks like that. The one that talks like that. Like, hey, y'all know who I'm talking about. You still have a better relationship with them than you do with Tamar. So there's more to it as to why you and Tamar don't get along. Now, it don't take a rocket scientist to see why you and Tamar don't get along. But it's more to it than just that whole, the botched, record thing. And we found out that Tamar and Tracy haven't spoken since they finished filming Braxton Family Values when they were in Napa Valley for her birthday, whatever that last season was. And so I'm not sure what sequence we're in, but it had been a minute. Like, it's been a minute. And David and Kevin was like, okay, well, it's both ways. Like, y'all are in town, y'all ain't come see us, y'all ain't call, y'all ain't. And and David was like, yeah, you're right. He was like, well, I tell you what, he was like, maybe me and Tamar, can come, and he was real hesitant about it. And Kevin was like, all right, he was like, yeah, Kevin was like, yeah, come by the house. And he said, why don't y'all come to the show tonight? And he was like, I'll ask Tracy. That was a no. I'll ask Tracy was a no. Because you think Tracy didn't know where he was at that time. Tracy knew exactly where her husband was. Tamar may not have known where David was, but I promise you Tracy knew where Kevin was. Anyway. And he was like, in my culture, this is just not how family works. When you marry the whole family. Everybody becomes one big happy family. We don't, it's just new. And I just really want to find a way for you guys to come together, because I know Tamar misses her sisters. I know Tamar misses her family. And I believe that. I absolutely believe that. 100%. So, excuse me. So then they have the show and everything is cool. They show us the show, whatever. So backstage, David is just not feeling Goldie. Like, David is sitting there pouting with an attitude when Goldie walk in the room, and Goldie is like, listen, I get all this negative energy from David. I don't know what his issue is, but it's just really negative, and it's really hard to work through anything when David is there being so negative about the situation. But it is clear that the two of them really just don't click. So then the next thing we see, we're back in LA, and the next thing we see is Tamar is in the middle of this big argument with David. David then told his family, because David's birthday party. So David invited Kevin and Tracy to come to the birthday party. And he said it like, man, y'all coming down for the birthday party? Like, they gotta maybe drive 45 minutes away. Dude, they gotta fly across the country to come to your birthday party for somebody they ain't speaking to. Boy, anyway. So they are in the middle of this big argument, and basically David has told his family about the DreamWorks situation, because I guess they're going to film his birthday party for the show. And he was like, well, I couldn't ask my brother and my sister-in-law to be on TV and be in the middle of something that they don't know anything about. And Tamar was like, but the DreamWorks don't have nothing to do, one has nothing to do with the other. And they end up in this big argument, and David done said that he done called Goldie a witch. He done said that, this is witchcraft, and y'all are in Hollywood, and the people in Hollywood, they dabble in the occult, and I'm just not comfortable with it. He said, what if Goldie's a witch? I apologize. He didn't say that woman was a witch. He said, what if? And the messed up thing was, Tamar's sister was like, oh my goodness, well, we better tell Goldie not to wear black and not to wear a black hat. And what the hell, 5 minutes later, who come walking in the door in all black with a black hat? Goldie, child. The assistant tries to go get Goldie to put on some. I guess he done pulled some of Tamar stuff out the closet, honey, and put a jacket on her, like a light jacket or whatever, so that I guess it wouldn't look as bad. But it ends up being this really big argument. Goldie gets upset. She gets to crying because she's like, at the end of the day, this is just not how I work. She was like, I'm here to work with Tamar. I'm not here to work with David. And I've never had to deal with this before. And, I believe in my work. I know it works. People, I've worked with some, basically, I don't work with some real important people, and I ain't never had these issues before, and I ain't about to do it for y'all or for WeTV. Because it became very clear that Goldie was brought in through WeTV. This was not something that Tamar explored and asked WeTV to follow her through. This was something that WeTV asked Tamar to do for the purposes of her show. Because later on, Mona Scott Young shows up, and Mona was like, listen, we already struggled with what this show was going to be and how the show was, what it was going to look like, and this is what we came up with. So basically, Goldie was brought in as a vehicle for this show to have something, a storyline, basically. I guess her and David wasn't enough. I don't know. And I think it could have probably been enough if David would have been comfortable with Vince being on the show, because I think we could have shown how Tamar and Vince are co-parenting. We could have shown that whole situation. But the fact that David was like, I ain't gonna be on the show if he on the show, that sort of nixed that in the bud. And it turned into a really big argument, and Tamar was stressed out and upset. And I really felt bad for Tamar in that moment, because again, she's trying. Like, she's trying. And I really felt like in that moment she is really trying. And she was like, Goldie was in the room with her assistant. She's on the phone with David. And Goldie's talking to the producer. And, Tamar had to say, listen, I'm going to need y'all to either shut up or leave. Because I don't want him to feel disrespected. Because basically, I don't want him to feel like we are in here talking about him while I'm trying to talk to him and trying to calm him the fuck down. And again, that was valid. Because I would have felt the same way if I'm on the other line and it's people in the background talking, and I know one of them people talking is the people that I'm talking to you about. I would feel some kind of way. So I don't feel like Tamar was wrong in how she was a little harsh in how she handled it. But at that point, she was just stressed out. She was just stressed out. And I don't feel bad for Tamar too much. But in this moment, I felt really bad for Tamar. Because I'm like, in this moment, you are really trying to make everybody happy. And it just... You just can't make everybody happy. And then David was like, and if we keep doing this, we're going to end up destroying Goldie's business. And Goldie was like, what? Destroy my business? Boy, you could never. You could never destroy my business. Like, I've worked with people that, like, A-list celebrities. Like, she didn't say that, but I'm saying that for her. And like I said, then Goldie got upset. She's crying and she's stressed out. She's like, I can't work like this. I can't work like this. This is not how I work. Tamar is stressed out. Like I said, they had to call Mona down. Mona is trying to talk to Tamar. So Goldie threatening to quit. That's what really made Mona come down there, because Goldie ass was like, I'm quitting. I'm done. I ain't doing this shit. So they had to get Mona down there to do some damage control, honey. And so Mona was talking to Tamar, and Mona was like, listen, I need you to let me know, are you on board or what? Because it seems like every time one, you are just not giving us access to your life the way you said you were going to do. And two, every time we have this breakdown, every time we have a major situation that goes on, it seems to be not something of your own doing. It seems to always be something external, aka David. Because it ain't no other externals around. Logan ain't doing it. Vince ain't doing it. Hell, she not even halfway speaking to her family, so they ain't doing it. So the stress is coming from David. That's what it seemed like to me. So, Tamar, so then they start talking about her relationship with her family. And that's when she was like, listen, she hadn't talked to, that her and her family don't speak unless their camera's rolling. She said, hell, me and my mom still haven't really resolved our issues of her going to TMZ, and not talking to me about any issues she may have had, which I think is valid as well. That was wrong for her mama to go to TMZ, but that's not my business. Then which this also let me know that, okay, well, clearly David has not shared with Tamar the conversation she had with Kevin, because that never came up at all. Oh, and Tracy and Kevin did not come to the show in DC, but like I told you, I knew that they weren't coming. And she was like, Mona was like, listen, I ain't no therapist, but like you seem to be way too comfortable with the fact that you don't have a relationship with your family. And Tamar was like, well, what can I do? Like, what can I do? Beg them to be my friend, beg them to love me, beg them to. She said, I invited them to Thanksgiving dinner. They weren't interested in coming. I invited them to David's birthday party. They not interested. And she said, you invited Tracy? And Tamar was like, I invite Tracy, but I invited everybody else, and none of them are interested in coming. Now, the Thanksgiving dinner piece, I can maybe see. Everybody got their own family. Tawanda's in a relationship. She damn near married. The other sister whose name, for whatever reason, I can see her face clear as day, y'all. I don't know why I can't think of that woman's name. I know it starts with a T. I don't know why I can't think of her name. Anyway, you know, she was getting married, and she had a whole situation with her new family. You know, maybe Evelyn, I don't know, but for whatever reason, your mama ain't want to come. Tony got her own thing going on. Like, maybe everybody just couldn't make it. They didn't want to go out of their way, and they couldn't. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But either way, they didn't want to come for Thanksgiving. They didn't want to come for David's birthday party. And so her thing was, what more can I do? You know, I can't beg them to be nice to me. See, that right there is what got me. Beg them to be nice to me. But you're not nice to them. You're downright mean, at least on camera. I don't know what goes on behind camera, but on camera, you are mean to them. And you've been mean to them since season 1 of Braxton Family Values. And she was like, I mean, even when we got to season 2, I didn't even know that we had a problem. I didn't know it was everybody against Tamar until, but again, I have to say, because of the way your ass was acting season 1. Anyway, child. So, then they finally get David on the phone, and David agrees to talk to Goldie. David says, sure, I'll talk to her. That way I can ask her whatever questions I need to ask her. And they even asked, would he be interested in seeing the process, seeing what Tamar is actually doing, so that he will see that there is no witchcraft, there's none of that going on, you know. And he agreed to do it. And so when we got to the end of the episode, that's where we left off, with David showing up. And David talking about something he worried about, you know, her getting caught up. And he said he saw, you know, back in Nigeria, he saw people who were sacrificing, you know, sacrificing goats and making sacrifices for fame and for fortune. And, you know, what is Tamar sacrificing? I mean, is she sacrificing my life? Is she sacrificing Logan's life? Our relationship? I mean, what is she sacrificing for this? And I'm like, so you still think this is witchcraft? That's kind of that's where we are now. You still think this is witchcraft? Okay. Anyway, yeah, that's all it is. This is crazy. It's just a lot. It's crazy. Y'all let me know what y'all think, though. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.